there are sparks in electricity bridges. The current travels through the line and even through the water dispenser or the shower, what you are using as a shower, and water becomes the conductor. With your foot on maybe some of these metal bathtubs and other places where hands may be placed, the likelihood of being electrocuted is high. So the advice is that whether our kids, wives, or whoever stays with us at home, prior to going to start, we should make a time to heat the heater, and after which everybody steps in, the person can put it off before going to do so. This is one way we can prevent things like that happening at home. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. George. In fact, there's a video that was shared earlier today on the HSE group platform on the incidents that he talked about. I'll now go to the next item to introduce Engineer Manji Silas. Engineer, as I mentioned earlier, Engineer Manji Silas is a principal engineer with Federal Ministry of Principal Chemical Engineer with Federal Ministry of Environment, Environmental Impact Assessment Department. He is a certified oil and gas environmental management, exploration and production expert. He is also a member of Nigerian Institution of Chemical Engineers. Engineer Silas, who is a chemical engineer, a chemical engineering graduate from Federal University of Technology, Yola, has played key role in ensuring the environmental impact assessment approval and certification of several major development projects in Nigeria. Some of these include the Dangote Refinery and Fertilizer Project in Lekki, which was given approval in 2015. Also, OML 77/74 3D reshoot seismic data acquisition and JK exploratory and appraisal wells project onshore by SNEPCO 2018. Post-drilling environmental seabed survey for Opeyi and Ekpeyi wells offshore by Total Nigeria in 2018. Eru and Udeli of Rima Field Development Project OML 123 and OML 137 respectively in Bayelsa State by ADAX in 2016. Also part of the projects where he played key role in processing the EIA approval is a Trans-Nigeria gas pipeline traversing Akwa Ibom, Abia, and Rivers States by NNPC in 2016, Nigerian Content Development and Monitoring Board National Headquarters in Bayelsa in 2016, construction of coastal railway from Lagos to Calabar, Cross River State by the Federal Ministry of Transport, Bakassi Deep Seaport and Calabar Superhighway project by Cross River State Government in 2016, 5,000 hectares rice farm and mill project in Adamawa State by Grun Rice Company Limited, and also 85,000 metric tons of fish plant in Ibadan, Oyo State in 2017. The topic he's going to speak about is the EIA process as a tool for sustainable project delivery. And he's an expert in that area. That's the work he do day in, day out. So I believe Engineer Silas Manji will do justice to this topic. Engineer Silas, over to you. Go ahead and share your screen and do your presentation.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a pleasure. I want to confirm that everybody can see what we have for today. Can we all see what we have?
Yes, your slide is visible. Go ahead.
All right. Thank you very much, sir. The chairman, Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, fellows, members, ladies and gentlemen. It's my pleasure this evening to make this presentation to us on the EIA process as a cost-effective tool for sustainable projects. I would, like the moderator said, go through this based on the outline that we have here. We'll start by some introduction. We'll define some terms, and then we'll look at the future is now. Just a short video clip. We'll look at what the law says concerning the EIA in Nigeria. Then we'll go through the EIA process briefly, and I will conclude by presenting to us EIA registrations and approvals in Nigeria for the past 10 years. Thank you very much as we listen. First and foremost, we would like to take a brief introduction, like I earlier said. And a wise man once said, we did not inherit the environment from our forefathers. We borrowed it from the unborn generations. That is to say, we must get to work right now. We have a picture showing to us what environment looks like in certain quarters in Nigeria. And that is to say, this is not what we inherited. No, we have a role to play to get it right. And that must be right now. We'll define a few terms. We'll look at what EIA is. We'll look at the term cost effective, and we'll look at sustainability. First, I would like to start from the third one, and then I'll play this short video clip.
Sustainability means that things can keep going, can sustain themselves, can continue into the future and go on forever. From a human perspective, sustainability for our planet means that it can continue to do what it was designed to do: provide fresh air, clean water, produce food, and allow us all to have a high quality of life forever. Unsustainability means that it cannot, and that is where we are now. 20 years ago, scientists in Sweden developed a definition for sustainability with 4 basic principles. These can be seen as the care instructions for our planet. If we follow them, it is good for our planet. And because we're part of the system that is our planet, it's good for us too. The care instructions are as follows: reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and heavy metals, reduce our dependence on synthetic chemicals that persist in nature, reduce our destruction of nature, ensure we are not stopping people globally from meeting their needs. Demand for the Earth's services, clean air, water, food, increases as the population increases and living standards rise. But the Earth's ability to provide these services is declining because of the way we're living. In our search for prosperity, growth, and success, we are destroying the system that we as humans are completely dependent upon: nature. We humans have become a threat to our own way of life. The Earth is a system and everything is connected: society, environment, and economy. To live sustainably, we need to follow the 4 care instructions and apply them to everything we do at home and at work. If we can follow these care instructions, we can work together to be sustainable. We'll all have a better quality of life. We'll waste less, we'll pollute less, and we'll create more things we value in society, while improving our planet's chances of providing us with the very things we need to survive.
Thank you very much for taking your time to watch that short clip. I wouldn't want to dwell much on that, as we still have a long way to go. Let's look at what sustainability is. In 1987, the United Nations Brundtland Commission defined sustainability as meeting the needs of the present without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. and this calls for action. Now, one may ask, what then is cost effective? I simply put it as producing good results without costing a lot of money. It may sound surprising, but how? We'll make an attempt to let us know how you can produce good results spending little or small amount of money. Environmental impact assessment is one of the ways that could be achieved. The United Nations Environment Development Program, UNEP, give us definition of EIA that includes the social, environmental, and economic aspect. And let's look at how this is defined. Environmental impact assessment, EIA, is defined as a tool used to identify the environmental, social, and economic impact of a project prior to decision making. Very important key thing there is prior to decision making. So it's a planning tool that should be introduced as project is conceived. Now let's look at what the law says concerning EIA in Nigeria. The principal legislation for EIA is EIA Decree 86 of 1992, codified as EIA Act Cap E12 LFN 2004. This regulation, among other things, does this too, which I'll quickly, or as you can see, it made EIA mandatory for both public and private sector development projects in Nigeria. It also empowers the Federal Ministry of Environment, the apex body for regulating, implementing, coordinating, monitoring, and certifying environmental permits in Nigeria in collaboration with relevant regulators at national, state, and local government levels. The Federal Ministry of Environment does not just do this alone, but we carry along the state where the project conceived will be executed, and also the local government area where such project will be executed. Quickly, I would like us to look at the EIA process itself. By this, we find out that Federal Ministry of Environment developed the EIA procedural guideline, and the guideline provides steps to be followed in the EIA process, several steps that will be followed. And then the EIA process starts from conception of the project. Now, it is guideline because they are the steps that will be guided. The environment is dynamic, and so steps should be followed to see how these processes are realized. Now, the step one in the EIA process is the registration. You conceive a project, you have a project proposal writing to the Federal Ministry of Environment as a proponent that you would want to conduct environmental impact assessment for a project you conceive. And you submit your terms of reference detailing what the project is, where the project will be located, what exactly is contained in it, the land take you require for your project, and a few other information. And then there's a registration form which can be obtained on our internet, ead.gov.ng. We have a registration fee that you pay to TSA, 50,000 for the project. And when that is done, you submit those documents to the Federal Ministry of Environment. On submission of that, the ministry will follow you to site to look at what you document in your terms of reference. Federal Ministry of Environment will be a part of the people, the officers will follow you to site. State Ministry of Environment, where the project is domiciled. The local government area is also there. The proponent is a part of the team, and the environmental consultant is part of the team. Now, the objective of this exercise is to obtain information on the status of the project site. You would have mentioned it in the terms of reference and would want to see what the project environment is. This includes the vegetation of the environment. The picture there is to let us know that when we go to site for your project, the ministry expects to see a green field, the environment as it is naturally. We also follow you to site to look at the proximity of your project to host communities, the proximity to water bodies, and a few other things. Who are your neighbors? we also want to verify that you have not commenced the project prior to registration for EIA permit. Now, when that is done, report is written by the ministry and takes us to the next stage, which is the scoping exercise. In this scoping exercise, the Ministry of Environment at the central office here in Abuja, the State Ministry of Environment, the local government, stakeholders will be a part of this. And at this point, you look at the concerns of the stakeholder. The picture we have, the first one there, there is a certain human being asking or quickly mentioning that he's also a stakeholder. So at this point, you bring them together, and what do? You find out from them what their concerns are. And you also get to know what are their perception of the project. What have they heard? What have they seen? What are they smelling? What can they test? What can they feel from this project? You look at the significant impacts this project will bring to them at that stage, the early stage, and you also look at alternatives. What should be done to the people? Now, that takes us to the next stage, which we will look at briefly. The fourth step, the terms of reference and the site verification report will now be reviewed in-house by the Prime Minister of Environment. And this will take us to project categorization. At this point, we'll be able to categorize your project. The ministry have 3 categories as required by the law. Category 1, Category 2, Category 3. One may ask what these categories are and how does it come about. Quickly, we'll look at it. For instance, you have a pipeline project traversing several states in Nigeria. It will come to your mind that several stakeholders are involved. The environment will be impacted. And this kind of project goes for Category 1. Then we'll look at what Category 2 project or Category 3 project is. Category 2 project could be an expansion of an existing project. For instance, you have a project up and running and maybe a production process, and you would like to introduce another production stream. And it's basically a technical thing. So you bring it to the ministry, okay, I've been producing, I'm making some money. I would want to have some expansion. The ministry will look at it, okay, since your project is up and doing, which has an EIA approval already, okay, so let's go look at it. And after that, we say, okay, this one, we just have a technical team to review what you are adding up to it, not necessarily Category 1, which is public, which results in public hearing. Then Category 3 could be a little project of maybe road rehabilitation project. The ministry will say, okay, this we categorize as a 3 after looking at your terms of reference and then the site verification report. Now, quickly, we would like to look at the next stage, which is the execution of the EIA study proper. At this point, we have several environmental consultants registered with the Prime Minister of Environment. One of them should be able to do the studies for you. You locate one, engage them to do the environmental impact assessment studies. Now, the ministry have, by law, required that you do a 2-season baseline study of the soil, the air, the water, that's groundwater and surface water, for the project. By law, 2 seasons are required to give the seasonal variation. Like I said earlier, the environment being dynamic. You also study the socioeconomics of the environment, look at who the stakeholders are, and study a lot of things. Then you look at the vegetation of the area, how sensitive is the environment, what exactly is contained in that place. Just to note, ministry may give approval for 1-season data studies if the environment is already studied in the past and there are enough data to bank on within 5 years of the time the proposed project is coming on board. Looking at a few other information, ministry would approve, might approve 1-season data study for a project. Now we'll quickly go to the next stage, which is the step 6, submission of the draft EIA report. Now, the draft EIA report will be written when the study is completed. This report is expected to be in 9 chapters. Chapter 1 of the report basically is the introduction. But before that, you have preliminary pages, and then you have executive summary where you give brief of all of these 9 chapters in that executive summary. It's a non-technical summary that when you go through it, you'll be able to have an information concerning the proposed project. Chapter 1 is the introduction, and it tells you about who the proponent is. It also talks about the legislation, both local and international regulations that are relevant to the proposed project. And chapter 2 of it is justification of the project. Why do we need the project in the first place? What does this project bring on the table? What is the importance? What are the things that this project seeks to address? Now, chapter 3 of this report should basically contain the project description in detail, the land take, the location, giving geographical coordinates, and then you describe the process if it's a production process. And whatever the project is, the detailed description of it will be given, and then you give a project schedule. We'll also have all of that in chapter 3. Now, chapter 4 is the baseline studies, the result of all the samplings conducted and the analysis in laboratories will be contained in that. The socioeconomics will also be there. And then you detail a lot of the things concerning the vegetation and the existing project area. Now, the essence of this is to have a baseline for that area before your project comes. For instance, you've studied the water, if it's polluted. When the project comes, then you look at the extent to which your project would have added to the existing situation in the water bodies around there. And that should be done. Then chapter 5 tells us about the associated and potential impacts that this project will bring. You look at that, evaluate it, and then detail it in chapter 5. Chapter 6, you now perform mitigation measures to what this impact that you have identified in chapter 5 is. And chapter 7 is the backbone of the study, it's the environmental management plan. In this environmental management plan, you look at what are these issues that this project seeks to bring, what are these mitigation measures, how do you monitor such things to be sure that the impacts are properly mitigated. And if there are residual impacts from the project, such impacts that cannot be mitigated, no matter what measures are proffered, how do you manage it throughout the lifespan of the project? So you developed an environmental management plan for the entire project throughout the life cycle of the project in chapter 7. Now, chapter 8 takes us to abandonment and decommissioning. When this project would have reached its lifespan as estimated, what happens thereafter? Will you just pack your things and leave the environment as it is? It is expected you restore the environment to the original state or close to it. Then chapter 9 is recommendation and conclusions. When that is done, the report is submitted to the Federal Ministry of Environment as a draft EIA report. Now, that takes us to the next stage in the process. When the Federal Ministry of Environment receives this report, we will do what is called public display for 21 working days. Now, these reports will be placed in Federal Ministry of Environment office, Brown Building in the FCT Central area. It will also be placed in the Federal Ministry of Environment office in the affected state where your project will be sited. It will also be in the State Ministry of Environment office in that particular state. It will also be in the local government area, the office in that particular state. This display will be augmented with 2 newspaper publications, one national daily and then state-owned newspaper, and it will be on the radio, state radio of the affected state for that 21 working days. Now, comments from these centers are expected to come into the Federal Ministry of Environment within this display period and at most 7 days after the expiration of the public display period. Now we'll quickly look at the next stage, what that is called the review of the draft. At this stage, the Federal Ministry of Environment will have experts in different fields, Nigerian experts and relevant regulators from the federal, state, and the local government level to review this draft EIA report that you have submitted when the public display exercise is concluded. Now, category 1 project will be a public or panel review exercise. This means that the whole public will be invited to be a part of the review process. And this review process is such that we'll have a chairman independent panel led by the panel chairman to review the draft EIA report. Basically, we have 3 experts for almost all the projects, and then 1 other expert or 2, depending on the type of project. Now, the basic experts that require to review a draft report is an ecology expert, because what we do is on the environment, look at the ecological setting of the area. Now, we also have a waste management expert, because almost every project, of course, all projects will have some level of waste to be generated. We also have the socio-economic expert to look at the social concerns concerning the proposed project, because any project that is coming up, it's for the humans. So what are the concerns of the people around the project and the general public as a whole? Now, for instance, if it's a power project, then we'll have an electric engineer, and then we'll also consult NEC, National Electricity Regulatory Commission, to be on the panel as the primary regulator in that aspect. And then we had, I just showed us a pipeline project. If it's a pipeline project, they'll have a pipeline engineering expert on the panel, and several other projects that are related to that. Now, for the technical review, that's the category 2, which I gave a little example earlier. This will mean that you have these experts and the regulators coming together to review it. This does not necessarily include the entire public. And then the category 3 is just going to be an in-house review in Federal Ministry of Environment office, where the proponent, the consultant, and the ministry staff will come together and review it. Now we'll quickly get to the next stage, which is the step 9, pre-approval, disapproval, and then FAQ. FAQ is final assess charge. Now, when this review is over, the independent panel set up by the Prime Minister of Environment will grade this draft report that is being reviewed. If a grade A is offered to any draft report, it means the back of it will be changed from draft to final, and then you submit it to the ministry as final report. That no tax is left undone. Now, before I forget, the essence of this review is not just to criticize what the report is, but to enhance it, to make it a better document that can be referenced anytime, anywhere in the world, not just in Nigeria. Now, if a grade B or C is given to the draft EIA report, it means the report have attempted to look at a lot of issues. Just a few things are missing. And in this aspect, pre-approval will be issued for the project, and then final assess charge will be paid by the proponent, and harmonized comments from the review, including those on the display centers, will be given to the proponent to implement it and submit a final report. Now, if a grade D is given, it means some parts of this are not really handled very well. For instance, if the social issues are not taken on board effectively, then you may have to go back to the field and do a socioeconomic studies and then submit it as draft report. And then the socioeconomic expert will now look at it again before comments are given to the proponent and is submitted as final report. If the ministry, the independent panel set up by the ministry, grades this report as E or F, that is outright failure, you may have to rethink and then change consultants if need be to start all over. Now, we'll quickly go to the 10th step, which is submission of the EIA report and evidence of FAQ payment. Now, if your project has a grade B or C, you submit a final report and then you pay final assess charge to TSA, Treasury single account. And then when those comments are addressed and the payment is made, you submit the evidence to the ministry. And this takes us to the next step, excuse me, please, which is step 11, the EIA approval. Now, this final report submitted to the Federal Ministry of Environment will still be reviewed in-house by the ministry to ensure that the comments raised during the review meeting are properly and adequately, satisfactorily addressed in the final report. When that is done, EIA approval will be issued to the proponent for the proposed project. And what comes up next is what is called IMM, that is Impact Mitigation Monitoring. In this case, we'll look at the backbone of this draft report, which I mentioned earlier, Environmental Management Plan. The ministry will pick it out and look at what the proponent said they are going to do, how they are going to monitor the implementation of this, and how to get these mitigation measures. And when that is done, the ministry look at all of that through this IMM process, which comes up when the approval is given, and thereafter EIS certificate will be issued to the proponent. Now, quickly, I would like us to go through the EIA registrations and approvals in Nigeria for the past 10 years. The record of 2021 is already available, but since the year had not elapsed, I choose not to include it. But I can let you know that we have already surpassed where we are in 2020. Now, if you have a close look at this table, you will notice that in 2011, we have over 200 projects registered, and less than 200 was issued approval. Now that goes, it keeps increasing up to like 2015, that there is a drop. And then approvals also fluctuate. Quickly, let's look at this on this chart to give us a better picture of what we are trying to say. Now, this chart, the blue bars represent registrations. And what we have on this axis, the vertical axis, is the number of projects registered and approvals issued. And then we have the years on the horizontal axis. Now, if you look critically, you would see that there's an increase from 2011 to 2014 in registrations. And then there's a sharp drop 2015, and then it tried to increase and stabilize anymore. Now, I would liken this to basically the economic situation in the country, which we should be aware of. We have some economic challenges tilting from that 2015 to 16. And as the economy was trying to balance from that 2016, Corona came in by that 2020, and there is a little decrease in it. And this also follows for the approvals that are issued. You could see that in 2011, we have less than 200 approvals. And 2012, we have a little close to 200 or about 200 or thereabout. And in 2013, we had so many projects registered and then a sharp decrease in the approvals. Now, ironically, so to say, if you look at 2017, we registered many projects than any other year, well over 400. But we had the least approval in that same year. Now, EIA is proponent driven, and it's not meant to stall projects. So what happens is, at every level, you come to the ministry that you have this project to do, and this is the step. The ministry tells you, okay, the law requires you to do this, and leaves you to get ready to do that particular thing required by the law. And if ministry doesn't get feedback from any of the proponents, it means either they are not ready to carry on, or they have one or two issues, which could be economy, like I explained earlier. And the ministry only write to you, notifying you that this is the stage you are to move on. Now, I would like to thank everyone for this time that you have created to listen to me. And the Director of Environmental Assessment, Mr. Abbas Suleiman, once said, environmental problems are created by engineers trying to solve other problems, and it takes engineers to solve them effectively. I would want to say the EIA process is one way we can resolve some of these problems. Why did I say that? In most cases, people don't really estimate what would have happened because it didn't happen. For instance, there is this project. You permit me not to mention the particular project or the particular proponent or location. Now, somebody had a project A, Mr. A registered project A with the ministry and went through all of this process and had his approval, and he started his project and is running. Mr. B brought up a project close to that Mr. A and registered project B. No, sorry, did not register project B and just started. So he started building, started moving on with his project. Mr. A said, this project will interact with our own directly. And that means project A will be out of place. It will not be in existence because of the interaction between the two projects and also the environment. So Mr. A came to the ministry and said, I have a neighbor that have gone far with this project, and I don't know if he has EIA approval. And so what happened? Said the interaction between these two projects, they cannot coexist. Ministry look at it, okay, Mr. B now came and registered the project, And when Mr. B registered the project, ministry followed him to site and gave him some advices, but he never agreed with. So he went on to have more than 70% execution of his project. That is millions. So when the matter became too hot, he was advised to change location because of the interactions of the two projects. And as I speak to you, I tell you authoritatively, Mr. B have to remove everything he has on that project location and move it to another. Now, if it did not happen, you wouldn't have known the extent to which money is saved for Mr. B. But because it happened, he was able to evaluate and look at the money he had spent, which was not productive in any way. Therefore, as we attempt to solve environmental problems and make our environment sustainable for all, our present and then the future generation, let's look at this EIA process and move with it to see that we succeed at it as we go on. With this, I would like to appreciate everyone and thank you for listening. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Silas Manji, for the eloquent presentation and the level of details that you've provided. Time is not actually on our side, so instead of summarizing what he has presented, perhaps we go straight to discussions. Anyone that has a question to ask or contribution to make, we encourage people to type their question in the chat area, or if you wish to speak, you can raise your hand on using the raise hand icon. I see 2 hands already up, and we also have 3 questions already posted on the chat. Perhaps I'll start with the questions that has been posted. Then after taking that one, we now take another set from the people that want to speak. The first question is from Engineer Tukur Lawa. He said, thank you, engineer, for the informative presentation. What are the differences or similarities between category 3 and EMP? That's the first question. So we'll take up to 3, you respond so that we'll be able to save time. The second question is from Timothy Sharif. He said, thank you for this highly educative presentation. My questions are, 1, how does Federal Ministry of Environment relate with EIA consultants? Number 2, can companies engage Federal Ministry of Environment to conduct EIA for them? So Timothy Sharif has 2 questions. The third question from Professor Omodele Eleta. Going by what obtains in the country, would you really say EIA is effective in Nigeria? Imagine the story you just narrated. How on earth would the project be get to 79% completion before removal is enforced? So I think what she wants you to give information on, why was he not forced to remove much earlier before he reaches that 79%? I think let's take these 3. We come back. There are 2 additional questions on the chat area, but we go to the audience before we come back here. Engineer Salas Manji.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much, sir. I sincerely appreciate the questions. Now, difference between EMP and category 3. Now, EMP could be could be approved by the ministry to manage a particular project depending on the few information. Now, in the first place, what informs categorization of projects is, number 1, the land tech. Secondly, the sensitivity of the environment. And thirdly, the interaction of the project and the environment. And I would like to say it here clearly that there is no blanket answer as to what an EMP, what category 1, 2, 3 will be. Reason being that the environment itself is dynamic. And when TOR is submitted, when you conceive a project, let me give you an instance. If you say you want to put a solar project in my village, for instance, because we have abundance of sunlight, and I sit in the office and say, okay, this one is a very small thing, it goes for category 3, or bring an EMP to manage it. I did not help you as a proponent. Reason being that by the time you start the project and collect hundreds of hectares from the villagers, and then they start enjoying the light, but there is no food to eat because they are farmers basically. It comes back to you as a serious concern. So I would answer these differences based on project. When you come to the ministry and submit your terms of reference, the ministry will follow you to site to check what you have brought in the terms of reference and what is obtained. That way, the site verification report and your terms of reference will be reviewed in-house, and you will be advised on the category of your project. Both of them actually it's small-scale project, but the advice will come based on specification of that particular project. So I would not want to give a blanket answer on that particular one. But when you bring it up, you'll be advised from the office based on what we see. We speak for the environment. And so by the time we go through a terms of reference and look at the site verification report, we'll be able to tell you what category it is, or just bring an EMP to manage your project. I think I have answered that. And I will look at this EIA and FME, right? If Federal Ministry of Environment can conduct EIA for a proponent, if I get that right.
Yes,
Hello?
that's the question. That's the second question he asked.
Okay, the first one is EIA and Federal Ministry of Environment. What's the first question again? Sorry. Hello, sir. Okay, let me take the second one. The second one, can Federal Ministry of Environment conduct EIA for a proponent? The answer is no. The law requires that you have an environmental consultant registered with the Federal Ministry of Environment to conduct the environmental impact assessment. Federal Ministry of Environment itself have a project. That means Federal Ministry of Environment is the proponent, but had to hire an environmental consultant to do the EIA for them. So the law demands that you have an environmental consultant registered with the Federal Ministry of Environment to execute the EIA on your behalf. I think that answers that. So the first question, I'm trying to get it again. Okay, how does Federal Ministry of Environment relate with the consultant, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
now,
that's the question.
Okay, Federal Ministry of Environment relate with the consultant. We have a section that is concerned with the registration of consultants, reviewing what they do, and then interfacing with them directly now for their own certification. And then the EIA division relates with them based on the projects that they are hired to execute. So I think I've also answered that. So there are two ways of interaction. First, you come, you want to have an environmental company, you are registered with the ministry, we look at what you have, give you certifications, and you are then certified to execute any project. The second relationship is when you are hired to execute a project, you bring submissions, you do the EIA for any proponent that has hired you, and we relate with you at that level also. Then we will take the third one. Is EIA in Nigeria effective? EIA is very, very effective. Reason being that we, the environmentalists, like I said, speak for the environment. And what do? You ask how on earth has the person gone 70% before was asked to relocate. Now, when this project was registered, we went to the site and looked at it. And we told him, these are the situations, these are the situations, these are the situations. And we move back. Now, what happens is, Federal Ministry of Environment does not have the mandate to seal your facility. We encourage and advise you to do that. We have an agency that does that, and it's their work generally. That is NSChE. And these people that came, we encourage them. These are the situations. We show you the benefit. We show you the thing you enjoy. And there are some other information I wouldn't want to give here since it's a general presentation, which was engaged with these people, and then their refusal ended them up in that situation. Permit me not to give out some of those information because we have gone a long way to engage them continuously, consecutively. Myself have been on that side. So I'm giving you information that I'm aware of. And so their refusal to adhere to our advice is what landed them where they were. And so the remedy is this. When you're advised to do a thing, you go ahead and get it done. And then, of course, they have the money and they run themselves into that trouble. So we only advise and encourage the enforcement part of the ministry. That's an agency that is under the ministry that is responsible for enforcement, also do their job. Thank you very much. Sir, I think we can take some more if I have answered those ones satisfactorily.
Yes, yes. So we go to the people that has raised their hand that wish to speak before we go back to the chat forum again. I see there are 3 hands up. The first will be Ibrahim Salah, followed by Professor Ojile, then our past president, Professor Adefila, in the order the hands were raised. Engineer Ibrahim Salah, make it brief and straight to the point so that we'll be able to close this meeting within an hour, as promised.
Okay. Thank you very much. A very good evening to my fellow engineers. I want to start by thanking Engineer Manji for a very beautiful presentation, very informative. My contribution is both a comment and a small question, I would say. Engineer Manji presented 9 chapters of the EIA report. My experience is that a lot of the consultants in Nigeria see these chapters as not relevant to the other. So we don't link the contents of the chapters to one another. And that is actually affecting the sustainability objective of EIA reports. And specifically, I will mention chapter 3, which is project description, as one chapter where engineers have a role to play. I know that the Federal Ministry of Environment oftentimes invites engineers to sit on panels and participate in the review of these reports. I am one of such people, but my experience is that in most cases, we don't do engineering justice to the project and we miss out. For example, basic, especially chemical engineers, basic, even at the most crude level, material and energy balances will point to where impacts are likely to be in terms of discharges and so on and so forth. So that when you do that in chapter 3, you can then take that through the remaining chapters and ensure that appropriate measures are in place. In most cases, this is lacking. This basic engineering input is lacking. And at the end of the day, our projects suffer. The aspects, the environmental, especially the environmental aspects, are not properly quantified. My suggestion, my small suggestion is that, yes, the Federal Ministry of Environment is doing a fantastic job by involving engineers to sit on panels. Perhaps they should work with the Nigerian Sector of Engineers or even Nigerian Sector of Chemical Engineers to draw a guideline that can, one, guide EIA consultants in what should be done, captured in that chapter 3, and also recommend, instead of the Federal Ministry of Environment appointing engineers to this panel on their own, perhaps work with Nigerian Society of Engineers or Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers to appoint panels so that the association can then also provide an oversight function to be sure that once an engineer is recommended to sit on the panel, his or her performance on that panel is also reviewed to, for adequacy. Thank you very much.
Professor Ojile.
Yes, sir. Our head, HSE, I want to thank the Engineer Manji for this presentation. I want to find out whether the Federal Ministry of Environment considers projects like seismic work in rural, coastal, and swamp areas. Seismic work where these oil company, prospecting company will throw dynamite and spoil our waters. Yes, you mentioned water, air, whatsoever, but the occupation of the people fishing, when they throw dynamite and spoil the waters, what do we expect? Is different from the discharge or effluents from chemical industry, where you test the water sample, and after the project is cited, after some years you test again. But this one, seismic work, they use dynamites and chemicals even when they use geophones, it affects the water, which is the fishing occupation of the people. What parameters do the technical committee involved considers? Most times in my area, I come from a swamp area or coastal area where these people will come and do this work and go away. We don't see the EIA activities carried out. That's why I'm asking this. Thank you very much.
Okay. So, sir, would you want me to respond to that?
Thank you very much. Professor Ojile. Engineer Professor Adefila. Prof, sir.
Yeah, I was unmuting. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
Thank you, Manji, thank you very much for this very educative lecture. Does the Federal Ministry of the Environment have a research section where people look at past reports and look at some trend on some parameters or some things, either the social aspect or the economic aspect or the environmental aspect? I don't know whether you do. If you do, that's very good. And if you don't, I think it will be useful. You do, you have this. And by extension, I want to talk to other industrial establishments too. People in industry, they should have not just mere research and development centers for the purpose of that industry alone. They should have a research section where people will have opportunity of studying records of things which they have generated over time. Because this can be useful in two ways. One, it establishes an academic culture within that system. And I imagine that a lot of these people, when they retire, could be very, very useful in the university system, either in lecturing or even in research and so on and so forth. I hope my question is...
Thank you, Prof. Engineer Manji, we can respond to those three. This is now, just go direct to the point, summarize, because we are actually out of time.
Okay, thank you very much, Engineer Salau. He is highly respected. and I've been on reviews with him particularly, and we appreciate your submissions. I will take this back to the office as feedback. I have earlier told my director I'll be making this presentation. So I'll get back to him on your submissions and your well-informed contributions as regards Chapter 3, guidelines on Chapter 3 with the Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, and also having Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers as a body that should recommend the engineers that should be on our panel for follow-up. That is well noted, and I will take it as feedback to the office. Now, the other one asks if we consider projects like seismic work done by proponents. Yes, we do, and we also follow them to site to get that done. Now, project, like I said earlier on one of the early slides, either 1 or 2 or 3, no, not 1, maybe 2 or 3. EIA is for major developmental projects, and swamp areas, offshores, water bodies are sensitive places that we don't neglect at all. To save us time, if you have key issues as regards to your questions, I would please quickly suggest write to the ministry. We are there because of you. Write to us, we'll look at it and see how those things will be addressed. But we engage them and we involve them, and we make sure that we're a part of everything they are doing. But of course, if there are key issues, because most times when we come and go, we may not have known what happened within the space of time, except when we come back for monitoring. So if there are key issues there, quickly write to the ministry and we'll get that done. And then the next question, does FME have research section? Now, the environment office is dynamic and it has lots of expertise and lots of areas, lots of field of study, and we ourselves are technical staff. In the EIA division, we are all technical staff. And now we keep records of projects and the studies. Like, that's why I said these projects, these draft reports are given back to the government to implement the comments to submit a final report. And based on this final report, if a project is coming up in a particular location, we will look at this report and say, okay, so there are lots of studies around this place, pick out one and make reference to it. So we keep those records and we also do all of that. And I also want to say that we have a monitoring plan, like the environmental monitoring, impact monitoring. We go on that and we have environmental audits, and that helps us to ascertain that, okay, what you are telling us you are going to do, you're actually doing it and it's done effectively and satisfactorily. Thank you very much, sir.
We go back to the chat again. We have a maybe 3 questions there. The first is coming from the immediate past president of Nigerian Society of Chemical Engineers, Engineer Onocha Anyaku. He said, you made a very good presentation and congratulations to you. In your presentation, you mentioned the EIA Act 1992, LFN 2004. What does it mean? Does the act came into being in 2004? Because you have 2 years there. You mentioned 1992 and you mentioned 2004. That needs to be clarified. And also, why is it EIA and not ESIA, which is the most relevant to project financiers? The second question is from Engineer Tukuri again. My thoughts are that the Federal Ministry of Environment should be pleased with the growing number of EIA registrations and will at the same time equally be very disturbed with few approvals. What are the reasons and the way forward? The number of registrations you presented far more than the number of approvals. Why do we have that? The last but not the least question from the VC is, do EIA look at process design to reduce environmental impact of processes? This is from Dr. Dr. Atta.
Okay.
Also, another question has just been posted by Dr. Aliu Bello. A big thank you to Engineer Manji. Does the ministry have a baseline data for the whole country? So if yes, are they accessible to engineers? I hope you are taking note of these questions. Another one just dropped. Ayola Fadi said that how impactful has EIA and other regulatory approvals have been in the Nigerian oil and gas industry? So if you respond to this last set of questions, we'll wrap up and close in view of the time, as we've overstretched the time by 8 minutes. So just briefly address these 4 additional comments and we wrap up.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. I would start with the first one. EIA Act Decree 86 of 1992 and then 2004. Now, the legislation was Decree 86 of 1992. And in 2004, it was codified as EIA Act Cap E12 LFN 2004. It took effect from 1992. The 2004 was codification. That is that. Now, why EIA and not ESIA? It's very simple. EIA in Nigeria is inclusive of the social, environmental, and economic. Now, it's an issue of nomenclature. If you register at ESIA, perhaps because of financiers that would want the social issues to be very elaborate and very clear, no problem about it. But the law is EIA. But the EIA package, the step-by-step procedure given as obtained in the procedural guideline, is all inclusive of the social component, of the economic component, the environmental component, which are the 3 pillars of sustainability. So it's an issue of nomenclature, which the ministry accepts if your financiers want it to be SIA. Now, the other one is the number of registrations and approval. We are concerned about that, so very much concerned about high registrations and very low approvals. But at the same time, the ministry only encourages, reason being that EIA in Nigeria is proponent funded. So it is your responsibility to get through it. And if for any reason you are not able to have funds to continue your project, the ministry won't be able to complete it for you. So we're only concerned about the approvals, but if you check that trend, like I explained, majorly is the economy that affects those approvals. And ministry is also encouraging as much as possible, but cannot execute project for any proponent. I will quickly take process design to reduce impact. Yes, agreed and accepted. And which is why we normally have engineers on the panel to assess that aspect. And that is what Engineer Salah was making recommendations that even this body that we have, this honorable body, will be able to look at the engineers that should come on such panel to address 1 or 2 things. Recommendations from these engineers really inform a lot of things in design. Time will not permit me to give you some clear instances where process designs are altered by engineers on panel. And it's very important. We just finished review of railway from Port Harcourt to Maiduguri. And then some recommendations came up from the process, from the panel review. And of course, the experts, the proponents welcomed it. And of course, they will implement it. And we continue to relate with them until such is done. Now, FME baseline for the whole country. Now, FME does not have baseline for the whole country, but we have enough baseline. And if you need it, you can write to the ministry, and such studies will be made available for you as much as possible. Then, how impactful is EIA in the oil and gas sector? Oil and gas sector, EIA has been so impactful. As a matter of fact, I was not in the office then, but I was told the very first EIA was from the oil and gas sector. And the impact has been on the increase, and the ministry appreciates that also. And such records can be made available for anyone as required. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Engineer Salas Manji. Just to add a few comments to the comment made by Engineer Salah. As also a practitioner in this area, the biggest issue we always have with that chapter 3, the project description, is the lack of adequate information flow from the proponents. A proponent that is coming to this that is hiding a lot of things, they wouldn't want to divulge this, they wouldn't want to divulge that. So therefore, it will be good if there is a clear guidance, like you have those sectoral guidelines that define what aspects, the checklist for impacts to consider for each type of project. If we have for chapter 3 a clear, specific what type of information the proponents must provide, I think it will go a long way in checkmating that particular aspect. So thank you very much, as I said, everybody, for coming. What we are going to take away from this gathering today as the HSE group is the need to involve professional bodies in the review of EIA reports. So the HSE group is going to submit this recommendation to the NSChE Council. We approach the ministry formally such that if the project is a process engineering report, instead of appointing me or appointing Salah or any other chemical engineers that you normally appoint, that request should go to the society. Is a society that will now appoint somebody to do justice to that report. If it is a civil report, you go to institution of civil engineers and so on and so forth. I think that will give will enhance the sustainability of project and enhance the quality of the work that we are going to do. We have to wrap it up because the time is well spent. We are going to share questionnaire to all people, everyone that has ever participated in this gathering, about those almost like 600. We need to do some review. It's been long that we had this platform. If you recall, we started in May in 2021 during the lockdown. We are running a weekly meeting session. After the lockdown in July, we changed it to monthly, and now it's also time for us to do another review. So we are going to send out questionnaire to obtain feedback from you. Those information we generate, we are going to use it to redesign the sessions in order to make it in tune with time, with changing times, and also with the requirements of participants, so that it will continue to remain relevant. Thank you very much, Engineer Manji, for taking time to prepare the presentation and coming forward to present it, and also all the review sessions that we subjected you to in order to get out what you have today. All the participants, we thank all of you, all our past presidents, the immediate past presidents and senior fellows. We thank all of you for keeping date with us all these years. Before we close, finally, may I call on Professor Ojile to give us the closing prayer and commit whatever it is that we've done today for God, to God's blessing. Professor Ojile,
Okay.
sir.
Okay, thank you. Let us pray. Father, we thank you for your grace upon our lives. Thank you for this insight you granted us this evening by reason of this lecture through our friend and colleague, Engineer Manji. Thank you for the wisdom. Lord, as we discuss, we pray for your protection over us, especially as we will all converge in Lagos next month for our AGM, our conference. Grant us safety. Grant the organizing committee the wisdom, the strength, the finances, so that our society will not lack. And for us, our family members, preserve us and keep our society. Thank you for answering our prayers. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank you very much, Professor Ojile.
Thank you.
The presentation slides, as well as a link to the recording, will be shared with all participants. That's the usual thing that we always do. The recording will be uploaded on YouTube, and you have the link which you can freely share with your friends and colleagues that were unable to come and participate. So thank you very much, everyone. We all have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.